Welcome to India Sports News. I'm privileged to have with me former India spinner, Mr. Nilesh Kulkarni, with us on India Sports News. Welcome to India Sports News, Nilesh.
Thank you, Chandresh, for having me on India Sports.
Thanks a lot. The Border Gavaskar Trophy is set to start in a couple of days' time. It's a massive series. The build-up is massive. Verbal shots are being fired from former cricketers there, from here, from the current cricketers, so on and so forth. I thought this was the time to go down memory lane because you played the historic 2001 Border Gavaskar Trophy. But before we go to that 2001 series, especially that Chennai Test match, you played against Australia in '98 as part of the Mumbai team against Australia. And Tendulkar scored a double hundred. Historic match. Mumbai won that match.
Absolutely. And I got 5 wickets also in that match. The last day I got 5 wickets also, where in 2.5 days we finished the match, and that was not expected. So in the 2.5 days, we are actually winning an outright match. Was probably a big jolt for the entire Australian contingent to start accepting that as a deterrent fact for them that it's going to be tough.
That's interesting because after that, Tendulkar went from strength to strength,
Exactly.
and then he completely dismantled Shane Warne.
Morally dominating Shane Warne. Probably India is the only country where Shane Warne's record is fairly poor as compared to any other country, a test playing country in the world. So, large credit has to go to Sachin Tendulkar for surely playing A, mind game, and B, technically being superior, overcoming all the tactics Shane Warne will adopt to try and beat Sachin Tendulkar. So I think it's a phenomenal learning for me personally as a cricketer, and then to all the younger generation to think about how they see this as a mind game, because Test cricket is all about coming up, scoring one up against the opponent.
You also toured Australia with the Mumbai team, didn't you?
That's right, in Perth. That was just a quadrangular one-day tournament which we had, and it was quite an experience because as a bowler to play in Perth, especially with the height I have, I could actually see the difference of the bounce that much
My God.
at Perth, and it was always difficult, challenging to adjust the length when you go first up as a bowler, because the moment you try and adjust the length, it becomes a short ball. If you bowl slightly upper, it's easy to just loft it. So that kind of a technical challenge was very difficult too. But luckily, I had a couple of people who had played in Australia who could just then share their experience and tell us that this is the length what you need to focus on.
So you had enough experience of playing against Australia in Australia. So by the time the Aussies came in 2001, they were the winning machine under Steve Waugh.
Right.
They couldn't be beaten in Test cricket. They had won 15, 16 Test matches on the row. And they came again in 2001. They played Mumbai again as part of the preparation for that particular series.
Yeah.
And you bowled well again against them.
I had a very good season before that. In fact, I played for first class season. I had a lot of wickets under my belt, so I was confident. I was probably expecting a call to play that series because I was doing really well. And unfortunately, if I'm not wrong, Anil Kumble was injured, and a lot of mainstream bowlers were not part of that squad. So I felt that I have a chance. I felt that I believe that they'll consider me. So when I went into that CCI match, I actually went with that confidence of thinking of I might get a chance.
What are your memories of that particular match against Australia?
So Steve Waugh actually he scored a brilliant inning in that match, and I remember he's playing some slog sweep shots at long on for a six into the members' enclosure, and they have a bar at CCI, and he was trying to hit in that area funnily, and he was managing it consistently. So, but luckily I got 4 wickets in that match, and I felt that I might just get a test call up in the first test itself, which did not happen. But mentally I knew that I have done enough to boost my confidence and then think about getting a chance to play that series.
Were you disappointed when you didn't get picked? Not just for that first test match. There was a massive camp before the series in Madras. Were you disappointed at that time?
See, as a cricketer, after playing in '97, you know that if you're not part of the camp, you can still make a comeback. But as a cricketer, if you're part of the first test match, it gives you extra confidence to go into a series when you start doing well into your first match. And that series is quite tricky series. If you see, the first 6 6.5 days, or 6.5 days, because the first match got over in 3.5 days. So the first 6.5 days of that series were purely dominated by Australians.
Yeah,
India
absolutely.
did not have any chance. And from that 2.5 day onwards, Rahul Dravid, Lakshman changed the envelope. Harbhajan Singh came with the brilliant performance and table turned. So if you see, it's like a Sensex, but into an extremities, right at the top and then coming down and then going up again. So for me, when I did not get a chance, I kind of anticipated it's going to be if I get a chance, what will I do? How will I do? And in anticipation, before that test match, I remember I had spoken to Frank Tyson sir, thinking that if I get a chance, what should be my strategy? So in my mind, I was preparing all those thoughts in terms of how do I need to approach the series if I get the first test match or a second test match. Eventually, I got the third.
We'll come to the third, but I want to get into your mind to understand when the first test match was going on in Mumbai at Wankhede Stadium. You're a Mumbai boy. You're watching them play. You're watching Hayden and Gilchrist play. In your mind, were you thinking, I would have done this differently?
As a bowler, sitting from outside, you definitely think differently. But funnily, I mean, this is a record, this is a stat which you will probably have more information of. But I never played a test match in Mumbai.
Oh,
So I never played for India in Mumbai, even in one days. I was not playing into 11. So I was part of the
did you
squad.
come close to playing in 97 against Sri Lanka?
97, 98, I was there because I had played the second test match in Nagpur.
Huh.
But in the last test match, they played with 3 seamers and 2 spinners.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was dropped again.
Yeah.
So funnily, I have not played for India at Wankhede. So obviously, I was looking forward to, because I have a very decent record playing at Wankhede or in Mumbai, that matter, at CCI also. So obviously, I know the bounce well. I know the wicket fairly well. So I probably could have handled that situation differently when Gilchrist and Hayden decided to attack
Rahul Sangvi.
Rahul Sangvi and take the game away
Huh.
from Indians. I probably could have adopted that slightly differently.
As a player at that time, when you were watching the Indian selectors and think tank pick spinners for the first test match, they picked Harbhajan because he was on the comeback. Famously, Ganguly fought for him and brought him back. Then they brought back someone that we all know, Narendra Hirwani.
Yes.
And the third spinner was Rahul Sangvi.
That's right.
What was going through your thought? You were thinking, here I am picking wickets, and they're bringing back Narendra Hirwani, and Rahul obviously was youngish then. But what was your thinking at that time?
So I think after making a debut in '97, you kind of realize, control the controllables, and what to expect, how to expect, and what to do and what not to do. So in my mind, the job was to get wickets. The job was to make sure that I push the envelope, to make sure that my stakes are high, my claims are fair, justifiable. And that's how I actually went into before that season, because I knew that Australia is coming to India. And luckily, in the first class season, I had a very good season. So I was fairly confident of the entire process of getting into those tests before that test series. And when I got those 4 wickets against Australia at CCI, I even felt more confident I deserve a chance to play that whole series. But that was surprising to see every match, they had different bowler except
Harbhajan.
Singh, who was the constant, Harbhajan Singh and Zair Khan.
Yeah.
The 2 people were constant throughout the series as bowling unit,
Yeah.
and rest all got changed in every single test match.
So the first test match after India lost,
Yes.
did you expect that, because there was a match at Delhi, a board president's 11 match, and Saurav was asked to play that match?
Yes.
Did you expect that in the second test match you would get called up?
I was hoping, because I had done a decent job at CCI before that test match. So I kind of knew that I've played well against them. I have bowled well against them, and in fact, if I remember it right, Steve has actually said that he's one bowler. Maybe it was a mind game, maybe it was a strategy of theirs. All we know, but Steve had actually acknowledged that I've bowled well at CCI against the touring team. So I felt that I am almost there. The time which was not in my control, obviously, and I was hoping that I might get a chance into the Kolkata test match.
Which again, they've changed the spinners for that test match, and
Yes.
they brought in Venkatpati Raju. Another comeback. They left out Rahul Sangvi and Narendra Irvani. Happened. History was created. How are you following that particular test match?
Very closely, because if you see the pattern from 97, 98 onwards, India have always rated India-Australia series high because you never got a chance to play Pakistan frequently. So the two countries India always focused on playing well was Australia and in England. So of course one of them is Australia, and at that point of time Australia was unbeaten leading into that series. So the thoughts were like you feel disappointed. Obviously you feel disappointed because if you've done well, you are expecting your chances to be there, and if you don't get it, you get yourself. You feel that what more do you need to do? And I remember that test match very well because I was closely watching that test match in Kolkata. And the way Harbhajan actually changed the game post the partnership of Dravid. Because I remember I was talking to Lakshman also after that. How is it to come in a day twice to bat? And he laughed it off saying that it's just quite weird because by then in a test match you're not used to that kind of a concept.
Yeah.
And first you're trying to put the runs on the board, and then when you're followed on, you're trying to make sure that you make an impact.
Yeah.
So Lakshman came twice on that day, and the number got changed.
Yeah.
Batting order
He came to number 3.
came to number 3, and Rahul was pushed to number 5. So it was quite different, and I was watching that closely. And I'm just wondering how are they going to approach? And he was in form, he was playing well, but the way he actually dominated the second day was so good to see that partnership. But more importantly, before the lunch, when India actually gave that chance, gave that this thing to Australia to bat, the way Harbhajan came and actually closed the game was brilliant to see because that momentum shift was so brilliant.
But you're missing out on another mystery spinner that India had. You're not talking about that mystery spinner.
Well, you will want to talk about it, but right now, the way Harbhajan dominated, I'm just focusing on the way he actually ran through the side.
But that mystery spinner, after that mystery spinner bowled, and we are talking about Sachin Tendulkar here, the way he bowled, did you expect that they would make further changes for the third test match?
Not really, but see, I mean, Sachin can do anything and everything. We all know that. And he's one person who's given the opportunity, and I'll come to that match when he bowled in Chennai. The way he bowled was phenomenal. The way he was spinning the ball, sometimes I felt embarrassed that the kind of spin he was generating was weird to see and accept that also. But he's a champion player. He's absolutely brilliant. The
Genius.
world knows about it.
Genius.
The world knows about it. We are nobody talk. We are too small to even talk about his ability as a player. But the way he actually understands the game is right up there. Sometimes it takes us an effort to get somewhere closer to his thought processes. So his understanding of the game, he can bowl off spin, he can bowl leg spin, he can bowl googly, he can bowl flipper, and he can embarrass the regular frontline leg spinners also. I feel sometimes privileged that he can't bowl left arm spin, which is good.
Yeah, very good.
Otherwise, I would have been more embarrassed.
Yeah.
He probably has the ability, but he never tried.
Yeah. But going back into the test match, Dravid, Lakshman with the bat, how did you follow that particular day when they batted all through the day?
So I was watching it, of course, closely because the way they actually built and paced themselves into each of the session was so good to see because Australians were hard on it. Australians were really into it, and the way they actually conquered those sessions, and then you actually could see some panic situation into Australian on the field as bowling unit. They were short of ideas, they were short of strategies, and that for me was a moment which India actually won hands down. Because see, as a cricketer, you want to see those small things which you can sometime a general common person may miss out on. As a cricketer, you want to see that look, they're thinking that they're panicking, they're not sure of a strategy, their backup plans are not working. So, Shane Warne is going for runs, Colin Miller is going for runs, the frontline fast bowlers are struggling. So, all these things adds up to a very good strategic thought.
And when Harbhajan picked up the hat trick, what were your thoughts?
Brilliant. I think Baju was right on top. Baju was on top of his game. Baju was top of his confidence. Baju was right into it. So, the way he actually bowled that series, India got a bowler who we all knew who could actually dominate the world stage, and which he rightly did for almost 10 years, a decade he dominated. But I remember seeing Harbhajan Singh in the nets in the 97, 98 in Mohali. He had come to he had come as a net bowler.
I believe Sidhu pulled
Sidhu
him.
brought him. Sidhu
Uh.
brought him. Sachin. He was telling Sachin that ये बच्चा अच्छा है.
And you guys were trying to pull him into Mumbai as well. That story is also there.
That's a different story. But Sachin liked him so much that his bounce, his ability to generate both the things was so phenomenal to see, even at that young age with inexperience. It was brilliant.
And when India won that second test match, what were your feelings like? Because it was
By
something.
then, I mean, obviously, I was thinking about it, but by then, you're not sure of whether you're going to get a call or not.
Yeah.
You're not sure, right?
Yeah.
Because you see Venkatpati Raju playing and he's a proven performer. So if he's there, he'll probably close the series. And suddenly your phone rings and you get a call.
Who called you? That's very important.
I think I got a call from BCCI office first, and then Mumbai Cricket Association person came to me saying that you've been selected
Okay.
at my place. So there were two set of communications which happened. I got a call from BCCI office saying that you were selected for the last test match.
And did you know at that time that Sairaj Bautule and Samir Dighe had also been selected, or just you?
No, they were part of the squad. They were announced.
No. Did you know at that time when you got a call?
No, I didn't get a call. I got a call for my selection. So when the person came from MCA, that time I came to know that two of the more Mumbai boys have been selected.
Okay.
That was Sairaj and Samir Dighe. But the beauty is the entire team travelled from Kolkata to Chennai, and the people who were dropped then left and we replaced them.
Yeah. So like Mungia, Raju, and
Mungia, Raju, they all went. They landed in Chennai, and then from there they dispersed.
Okay.
And then we got into the hotel, checked in with the teammates.
But at that time, when you checked in, who did you first meet from the team? Any memories?
I remember meeting John and Saurav first because when we went into they actually welcomed, and Saurav was very kind in terms of defining, because he probably knew that they had selected three spinners into three different matches, and when the series is 1-1, then the responsibility adds tenfolds more.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to lose the series.
Yeah.
The thought processes are different. But Saurav had different ideas. He wanted to win the series.
Yeah.
He was not thinking about the loss.
Yeah.
And that particularly thing rubbed onto me also and all other players, because he was always forthcoming with regards to, I want to beat them in this, because that was such a build up with so many other episodes which had happened in the past before that 2000-2001 series. So I think he led from front in terms of making a statement, giving confidence. So I remember Saurav welcoming me, John Wright talking to me and giving me clear indication, the roles, the clarity, defining what is expected from you now that you're coming into this situation. This has happened. This is how it is. So a foreign coach for the first time giving that kind of a briefing was heartening to see.
And how different was it to say interact with the John Wright compared to the Indian coaches you had in the past?
See, the processes are different. The foreign coaches at that point of time, it was completely new for all the Indian players also. Luckily for me, I trained under Frank Tyson sir, so I kind of knew how the foreign coaches think or approach or apply things. So that helped me to a large extent to understand what he was trying to communicate. Because they're coming up with no baggage. Their expectations to keep everybody on the same level was very easy to go with. And that eased a lot when you go into the dressing room. See, there are 2-3 fundamental challenges, Chandresh. You're going into a series with 1-all. On top of it, you're doing your comeback.
Yeah.
That adds a pressure.
Yeah. After 4 years.
After 4 years. So then you need to establish yourself. There are a lot of thoughts going into your mind. The mind is fully occupied, confused with 100 thoughts. And then you need to single it out, thread by thread, getting a clarity, because A, you need to perform for yourself, B, you need to perform for a team, C, the most important thing, series is at stake. And your contribution matters.
Yeah.
So these are the things which plays back of your mind. And when you're going into that series, these are the things which actually played a vital role, unless you're confused. Because the moment you get more confused, you'll not be able to deliver what is expected.
Absolutely. And when did you come to know that you've been selected for because till then India was playing only 2 spinners in the 11 plus Sachin.
Yes, but I think they had made up their mind that they're going to go with 3 spinners into that test match. And
Zaire was the only new ball
Zaire
bowler.
was the new bowler, and Saurav himself said that I'll bowl with the new ball because Harbhajan in that Kolkata Test match, if I'm not wrong, in the second innings he started with the new ball. So that made them take that decision that why don't we go with three spinners and Zahir will be the lone frontline seamer with Saurav filling in. And that way they can add one more batsman into the squad to strengthen the batting unit. That really worked well.
And when you came to know, what was your thought about when you got to know that you're in the 11?
I think obviously you are related because the day before that you know that you've been asked to do these things, you've been asked to do these scenarios, situations, everything. So you're preparing for that test match. And when the toss happened, Saurav unfortunately lost the toss. I remember that episode also.
I'll come to that other episode as well.
So, but the build-up was so good that I was focused to make sure that, and luckily for me, I've had a good record at Chennai. So I've done reasonably well in Chennai because again, like Mumbai, it's a fairly reddish soil. The bounce is very conducive to my height, so it works well for me to adjust and adapt to that kind of a wicket. So I knew the wicket and the conditions well. So I was kind of falling into my comfort zone of delivering. But end of the day, test match pressure, test series at a stake, that pressure is something else.
So there was about half an hour, 40 minutes to go for toss. You're getting ready. You've been told that you're playing. Sairaj has been told that he's playing. The third person who flew in with you was Mr. Sameer Dighe. He doesn't know till then that he's going to play, or rather we are told that he doesn't know. And there is some drama happening. Did you catch it from the corner of your eye?
I actually didn't, to be honest with you. I'll tell you why, honestly.
And he's being honest.
I'm genuinely honest because, see, when you're making a comeback, you're worried about yourself first. And what happens into the management discussion, you don't want to be part of it because you first want to focus yourself what you need to do. And when you are told you're playing, that adds even more pressure for you to be ready mentally to start thinking what you need to do. What happens there, you want to ignore that component because that's not in your hand. That was happening there. Let it happen. If I'm playing, I'm going to focus on the job which is given to me to make sure. And Saurav's brief was, we want to win this test match. We want to win this series. So if that is your brief, you're going to play a critical role. Then you want to approach that with that particular mindset and a frame of your mind. So I was pretty clear in terms of how I want to go with that part.
And just to sum up, that particular episode was the fact that Mr. Nayan Monge was part of the team for the first two test matches, got injured in the second test match, and the selectors felt he had still not recovered. And about 40 minutes before toss, Nayan was replaced by Sameer Dighe, and Nayan was asked to go back, and he never played for India again.
Right. But I think fitness test in those days, that had just started. Fitness test, so that player will last for 5 days or not, and how. So probably those were the parameters in those days, which now is a norm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which now is a norm in the current cricket, which is a norm. In those days, it was more of a introductory part.
And it feels so strange to say those days, and it feels like it was just yesterday.
I know,
time flies so fast.
It does. You still need to relate it in different manner. You still need to think it in that perspective that it was those days.
Yeah.
Because it's almost 22, 23 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a long time.
Yeah. So Sameer Dighe is making his test debut. Sairaj Bautule is his debut. You are coming back into the test match. You already have Sachin. So you've got 4 Mumbai boys. Does it feel like you are playing in the same atmosphere like in a Mumbai Ranji Trophy team?
It made the job easy because when you see Sachin there, your nerves are calm because obviously everybody is focusing on Sachin. So there's less expectation, less focus on you. And he makes the situation more lighter for you. He made the situation lighter for me, for Sairaj and for Sameer Dighe, both, 3 of us. So that was a very comforting factor for us. And additionally, Saurav as a captain made it a lot more easier because I shared a actual room with him in 97, 98.
Okay.
When I made my debut for India first. So kind of knew Saurav fairly well because when you spend more than 40, 50 days with him, you understand the person, his thinking, his thought processes. That made my job also a lot easier.
And just to focus only on Sameer, was Sameer somebody who was as loud behind the stumps as Nayan or...
Yeah. Huh? All the wicket keepers, 90% of the wicket keepers are same. Consistent.
Sabha Kareem.
Sabha was always as a personality also is subdued. So, but 90%. That's why I said 90%. He comes into that exception. But they are all chirpy, encouraging you, pushing you, asking questions, giving you feedbacks. All that routine is very good, comforting.
So now we are in the final test match. It's a decider for India. They have to win the test match to win back the Border Gavaskar Trophy. It's a historic competition between two proud test nations. That particular test match, most of the wickets in the first innings were taken by Harbhajan Singh.
Right.
So what was your and Sai's role in that sense?
See, okay, I think the brief was very clear. In the first innings, we all had a role to play by going for that. I think the mistake which I made, which I did not learn from, was the advice given by Frank Tyson, sir. I distinctly remember before the test match, he had given me an advice that Matthew Hayden is developing a sweep and a slog sweep to counter attack Indian bowlers, whether it's a ball coming in or ball going away. So he's actually developing a very different range of shots to counter attack the spinners in India. And he had advised me saying that Nilesh, bowl him outside the off stump, make him come out of his comfort zone. In the first inning, it did not strike me because of the pressure, because of the entire expectations, the first day of the test match, comebacks, all these things. It did not register with me that I need to apply that. So I remember he had a 200, brilliant double-handed in that. He was just stepping out and just timing it into the stands. And obviously the first day wicket is a fresh wicket. And it's very difficult to contain runs in Chennai wicket. The outfield is fast, and in the first 2-3 days, the wicket is so conducive that you can just time the ball and it just goes. It flies off your bat. But Harbhajan, with his bounce and ability, he was outstanding. Barring few shots which Hayden managed to play, he was dominating most of the batters now.
Yeah, you have to
Now
be
it's all
correct.
batters.
You have to be correct, politically correct.
ICC corrected part.
Yeah.
They were all finding it difficult, even on a flat wicket, to handle Harbhajan Singh. And for me, that was a great learning to see how well he's dominating, he's supremely confident, and he's into many of the batters' minds. Even Ricky Ponting was, got both the innings, he got him out.
Yeah.
He was right into their minds, Harbhajan Singh, the way he was bowling. So for me, that was a great thing. But when I went back, I realized the mistake I made. I think there were a couple of missed chances of my bowling also in that innings.
Yeah.
I think if I'm not wrong, 2 stumpings were missed on that.
Yeah.
In that. But that's part of he was under pressure and things were not happening. So the good part is I soon realized and applied that into second.
And in the obviously when India batted, Sachin batted well, Lakshman batted well. Second innings, then you learned from your mistakes of the first innings and you picked up Matthew Hayden.
Yes, because what happened was there was a meeting happened between the bowlers and everybody else and the captain and team management. And the briefing was we need to now come up with the strategy not to leak runs because we have to bat the last. So the approach was that what should we do? And before that, I had remembered I had bowled good 30-40 overs in one of the innings of the first class, bowling outside the leg stump as a strategic path to make sure we restrict and not allow them to leak runs. And then I suddenly realized that look, then I'm thinking asking them to do something different. Then why not ask Matthew Hayden to do something different? And that's when I started bowling him way outside the off stump.
Okay.
Because he was not playing cover drive. He was only into the mind of sweep or slog sweep. So when I actually bowled him right outside the off stump, he still went for that slog sweep, mistimed it, and Zail Khan took a brilliant catch. And that started the
Collapse
for Australia.
And when you had the target about 150 odd, you felt that this was something that could be achieved without much drama?
No, because the way Australians were bowling. In fact, just a story before that, I remember every run was important. Every run we gave was extremely important. So bowling outside the leg stump as a strategy really worked well because we could support Harbhajan Singh to give those 10-15 extra runs just in case he needs to go out for the wickets. And that role was given to me in the second innings,
Okay.
which really worked well into the Indian strategy favor.
Okay.
Into that last innings of the batting.
And so when the chase started, obviously Das and Ramesh started well, and then Lakshman came in. Did you feel that now it's a cakewalk?
Yeah, by then when Lakshman was batting, there was no pressure. I think that particular the momentum was fully with Indian team. The shoulders were not really high, very aggressive by the Australians. So we could see that is they've they're not they're confined to a fact that it's almost getting over. But for some reason that ball started reversing. Those couple of wickets which fell. Gillespie came up with a spell and suddenly the pressure got built up.
And then suddenly, Indian team was under pressure.
Absolutely.
You had Samir Dighe batting at the crease, debut test match. Then Zahir batted for a while. Then Harbhajan came in.
Right.
And tell me, honest to God, hand on your heart,
Yes.
what was your mind like?
So my one leg was 100 kgs, second leg was 100 kg under pressure. Hand on heart, that was the pressure situation. And there's a funny story to it. In those days, at Chennai, the stadium had a members enclosure.
Yeah.
And Mumbai and Chennai, traditionally, the people who come to watch a test match understand cricket.
Yes, yes.
They are very into the test cricket format and they can talk absolute sense into it. So I remember one gentleman shared one dialogue and they had just a net in between.
Yeah.
So you could hear them talking.
Yeah, yeah.
I was already under pressure.
Yeah.
And that one communication came flying my way saying that don't repeat the Thai test match. And I am just worried about what is happening there. And every team member is just coming and telling me, Nilesh, you have to do it now. You're the person who. And luckily for me, I had spent a good amount of time in the first innings hanging out on the field.
Yeah.
For good almost half an hour, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So they thought that at least I can hang out there without realizing the pressure was 10 times more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because saving a test match, losing a test match, and tying a test match. All three results were possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
In that scenario, you're making your comeback.
Yeah.
You're under pressure any which way. Your players have got out. The series is at stake. You don't want to be on the losing side. So all those thoughts, and when this information comes, just when you don't want it, it adds more pressure.
So did you feel that you're seeing Maninder Singh somewhere?
No, I did. But these are the dialogues where the hardcore test following people will always remind you of.
Yeah, yeah.
But fortunately for me, Harbhajan and Samir sealed the game.
So when you were getting closer, did you remove your pads and felt that?
No. I was not even moving an inch into that.
So was anybody in the team superstitious at that particular time?
So everybody is. So I remember Saurav also coming to me twice in between the overs saying that to do it. So as a captain, then that adds more pressure to you.
So was there specific instruction?
Everybody was sitting into their assigned positions, into the same position to make sure that whoever goes out to give water to somebody has to come back in time before the ball is bowled. So all these routines do happen in.
So when they were getting closer, were you cheering it, or were you quiet or very nervous?
No. I was cheering it out just to release my stress. Obviously, you had to release. Otherwise, you once you go on the field, you'll not be able to deliver what is expected of you. So those are the small things. When you go into those situations, you know how to handle it. But yet you still feel the pressure.
And when they finally got the winning run, what was your reaction?
So first thing we just ran onto the field. Without removing pads, I just ran onto the field. Because that was something epic. That was a special moment. That was a historic moment to beat Australia, who were dominating the world test cricket. To beat them with that kind of intensity into that test series was a special feeling.
And what do you remember after that? What happened when Saurav received the Border Gavaskar Trophy? What was the reaction and what was happening at that?
It was a special moment, but I remember one very good incident where in those days, they used to have a healthy camaraderie between the players also. And the way series was fought, it was Sachin Tendulkar who proposed one thought that we should go into Australian team and have a chat with them.
Interesting.
And that was something for me, was a great learning because he said that now that series is over, we fought hard on the field. Both the teams really gave everything out of it. I think it's our responsibility to just, because we are the host, we should go and greet them and acknowledge the kind of fight they put on the field and respect the series.
And what are the celebrations like?
Celebrations were brilliant all the way into the night. Celebrations were but I think the very next day the one day team was leaving
For Bangalore.
for Bangalore.
Yeah.
So we were not selected. So we came back to Mumbai and the team who got selected then went straight to.
Do you think enough is spoken about that particular series, or enough is not spoken about that particular
I
series?
think if you ask me, enough was not spoken about that series then, but it's spoken about it now, especially after that 2021 series win in Australia. There's a lot spoken about. The media was not that active in those days. The social media, the OTT platforms were not so heavily into it. So I think now things have changed drastically. And the value and the importance of that series is spoken now more than in those days.
How much do you think that particular series put the faith of common person back in cricket because of what happened earlier in that series?
Immense. I think that series, for many reasons, for multiple ways and reasons, was a great start for all those who were on the edge of not following cricket, brought back into Test cricket. And if I have to give that credit, a large credit has to give to Saurav Ganguly as a captain, who put together the entire unit together, and Sachin Tendulkar, the person and the persona he is, who made people believe into Test cricket again. Because I think without these two people, and of course the contribution of Lakshman and Rahul Dravid, who actually played the way they played, made people believe into that series. But Saurav, as a captain, led from the front with a different approach. He took the Australians head on. I mean, that was such a heartening sight as a cricketer who walks into that dressing room to see that your captain is giving you freedom to go head on to Australians, which never was the case. And for me, that changed the thought process for Indians and for the world to look at Indians differently.
And is it true, there are lots of stories about the fact that Saurav made Steve Waugh wait at the toss? Did you actually see that happening at Chennai?
Well, I was not. I was actually going into my motion as a. See, many times what happens as a player, you have your set patterns you go through. And as a captain, he takes a break, goes into dressing room, and then you see him only at the toss. So what happens in between, you're not privy to because you're on the field doing fielding, you're doing your bowling routines, you're doing your other activities, your stretches. So you only come to know post what has happened rather than during that.
That's an interesting thought. But Saurav was a character.
For me, he made a statement. For me, he made a strong statement for Australians. He made a strong statement to world cricket, how India is going to change the envelope of approaching Test cricket.
And India-Australia Test cricket has never looked the same after that particular season.
Absolutely. And for me, that credit has to go to Saurav Ganguly as the captain, John Wright the coach, and one genius Sachin Tendulkar.
Absolutely. Now, fast forward, we are in 2023, days away from another Border Gavaskar Trophy. Again in India, the last time it's going to be a 4-test series. After this, it will be a 5-test series. And 2001 series played a big part in that, becoming 3-4 and now 4-5. So I just want to know, who do you rate as the favorite for this particular season?
So according to me, India is 2-1 or 3-0.
My God, that's a big statement coming from you.
Yes. Because I think India has an advantage going into this test match. See, if you have to win a test match or a test series, your bowlers need to be there. And when you see Ravindra Jadeja, Akshar Patel and Ashwin and then Kuldeep Yadav into the squad, I still feel this is a very, very good chance India have to go into this series 2-1 or 3-0.
But Australia are coming after a pretty good year, winning in Pakistan, coming close to winning in Sri Lanka. They're looking good as a batting unit.
They've not done well in India.
That's a good point, yeah.
They've not done well in India. And that unit is still vulnerable to handle Indian conditions with the Indian opposition. And now, post-COVID, there'll be crowds in the stands also.
Yeah, that's a very big point that you're making. So, India Sports News is going to be closely following the Border Gavaskar Trophy. We we all are, but India Sports News specifically. So, we need a promise from you. Will you be available or be part of our team watching the test match and analyzing it?
Absolutely, absolutely. When India Sport News calls me, I'll definitely be there to actually talk about my experiences and what is happening, sharing my analysis on your channel.
Thanks a lot. So, Nilesh Kulkarni, former India spinner, will be with us during the Border Gavaskar Trophy every day during the Test series to talk about the day's play and analyze the day's play. Nilesh, thanks a lot for joining us on India Sports News. We hope to hear more from you during the course of the series.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to the entire Test series with you and with you.
Thanks a lot for joining us on India Sports News.